I think my first reaction was um, how resonant and how obvious it feels to me that a divinity school would be a wonderful site for a living building. Living buildings are really deep manifestations of our intentions that we put out into the world around how we want to interact with the world. How do we want to interact with the spaces that we build for ourselves? And how do those spaces impact others? How do they impact the planet? How do they impact culture? And I think, how do they impact our spiritual lives? So I was very excited, and it felt just like a natural fit that Dean Sterling would be taking this on and trying to bring a living building to Yale, to have that be this sort of center of activity around what it means for us to maybe reshape the relationship we have with each other, with our planet, through the manifestation of a new building. I think it's really important for universities to pursue visionary projects like this, especially to have buildings that can really inspire students to think about the world that we want to create. Buildings have this wonderful way of showing us what we are capable of as a species, as a society, because we have this opportunity to make so many choices throughout the construction of a building. From everything that goes into it, to the labor practices that are involved, to the types of spaces we want and the kind of activities we want to facilitate in those buildings. So they become these really profound teaching tools that are just really important for us to inspire and shape minds that are going to be the leaders of our society, of our world in the next generations to come. So some of the most inspiring buildings we've seen are those that are sort of fundamentally educational institutions, or are on the campuses of educational institutions, because thousands and thousands of students will come and go and see these buildings and sort of have an understanding of what it looks like to put a set of intentions out into the world and to create the world that you want to see exist. And that's what I love about working with buildings like this and with projects like this, is that I think especially for the idea of divinity schools, perhaps it's even more important to ask ourselves, what are our intentions for each other, for how we relate to each other? And to be able to see that manifest in such a tangible way is a gift, really. It's a gift to be able to do that work. So I'm excited just to be able to see the building manifest. One of the things I've spoken with Dean Sterling about that I'm excited for is that from now on, from the ground healing ceremony onwards, this whole experience will be an incredible opportunity for learning for people all over the campus, and indeed in the community at large, in the industry at large, to really watch and learn what a building like this looks like and how it works and who gets involved. So it's just an incredible opportunity for pedagogy. So one of the wonderful things about living buildings is that they are beacons in their communities. I would expect and anticipate that a lot of people are going to learn about the project at the Divinity School, either through it being an opportunity for folks to tour around it, through the case studies that we'll publish on our website, and just through the stories that people will put, in the media and those kinds of things. So these buildings have a way of kind of inspiring people. I had a professor in college who used to call this architecture as pedagogy. And it was really sort of his point of saying that, getting to see and learn a story of a building has a way of really sharing a set of ideas about the future with people, and in a way that's more tangible, in a way that really resonates with people, that is pretty inspiring to watch. And so I wonder, in the same way that perhaps, the existence of a church or walking into a space, any kind of a spiritual space, can sort of transform you a little bit, that the idea of living buildings can also transform you to think about this question: what type of world do we want to create for ourselves? How do we want to build our buildings? How do we want to live in community with each other? Because there are so many little decisions that go into that. So I'm just looking forward to seeing how those decisions manifest for the Divinity School in really unique ways that are, maybe more than other living buildings, rooted in a particular style and a particular worldview and way of thinking about our relationship to each other and to the planet. I think there's going to be something really unique about this that hopefully we can all learn from and be inspired by. So at our recent conference, where I was able to meet Dean Sterling, the theme of the conference was actually around belonging, and equity was a big theme of the conference. And by that, in our context, we mean a couple of things. We mean how do buildings in their design and construction, but also in their operation, have a way of bringing community together, have a way of making sure that everyone feels like they belong in that community, and in supporting the livelihoods, the economic systems, the jobs, the sort of safe living conditions for all of us. So what I'm excited about for the Living Village project, but also just for the Divinity School more broadly, is to show leadership and to kind of help think about and set a new expectation for us, for Yale, for the community, for the building industry, in what it looks like to truly consider, how do we make people's lives better through the act of building a building? And that can happen in so many different ways. It's really exciting just to think about the possibilities. So you can think about it from the act of, how are the materials going into the building going to create new opportunities for employment for folks who might have a trouble finding employment in the economy these days? You can think about all of the intention that will be put behind each material, right? Each piece of furniture, each light fixture, each bit of wood that goes into the floor. All of that is going to be thought around this lens of, how are we helping to push for more equity in our communities. So it might sound a little mysterious, but that's what the Living Building Challenge is there to do, is to sort of help you make those decisions in a way that's really truly impactful for the community and for people around the building. So I'm looking forward to that. One of my favorite aspects of the Living Building Challenge also is the open house day. So as a part of participating in the program, the building will have an annual open house day from now till eternity, is basically the idea. And that just gives this opportunity to make sure that this living building, along with all living buildings, are not just for the people who live in them, but there'll be an opportunity for folks from the community to be able to come in and see the space. Probably not inside the residences, I would imagine, but nonetheless, to really see and experience the space themselves over time, so that we all get to kind of learn from and feel inspired by being in the building. So buildings are incredible storytellers. If you think about walking up to any building in a city and understanding, what is that building telling you about? It might be telling you about the sort of the stateliness of the organization that built it, and how permanent that organization is, or government or something like that. There are buildings that are designed to make us feel like we can come in and we can be a part of it, and we can get, be warm and dry, and, a library that sort of invites you in to learn. Buildings tell these wonderful stories always, and have a lot to say in the world. And one of the things that's great about projects like the Living Village, and that I'm particularly excited for the Living Village to tell, is the story of what our world feels like when we have found balance with each other, with our economic systems, and with our ecological systems, such that we are truly healing the planet and the damage that we have done, that we are healing each other in terms of the health impacts that we see that we've sort of created for ourselves on our planet, and for our communities in the way that we interact with each other. What does it mean to have a world in which love and compassion and support are more truly integrated into our economic, our political systems, and just into the community fabric around us? Another way to think about it that we look at the Living Future Institute is, what does it look like for a world to be ecologically restorative, socially just, culturally rich? And just to be able to imagine that world is a really helpful step in the right direction of working towards that world. And so I believe and trust that as the Living Village manifests on the Divinity School's campus, that it will start to help people imagine, what am I going to do in my work, in my daily life, in my practice to help manifest that world? It starts to demystify what it means to create that world, and starts to give us these sort of tangible and reasonable steps towards making our way there. And hopefully also along the way, just reminds us and inspires us and feels like a rejuvenating space to be in, to make those kinds of decisions and set those intentions for ourselves and for our work. So I'm just excited for the idea that students at the Divinity School will now have a space that shows them that a better world is possible. And this building is going to be a constant reminder of that, and hopefully also an ongoing dialogue of a space that people can use to sort of learn from and to influence and to show and use as a teaching tool themselves, to point other people to what it feels like to manifest that world.